Alright, so the discussion over on the Jonathan Capehart video is still going on. It's currently up to 130 comments, and I want to do a video to try and explain visually something that is hard to explain in writing, and that is that the discussion has moved to the question of where is it that Michael Brown turned around to face the officer. Because it's one of the points on which the entire case rests upon, and it's one of the most interesting things, I guess, one of the more interesting coincidences. The discussion starts with number one, Darren Wilson's testimony to the grand jury. Quote, "We passed two cars that were behind my police car while we were running. I think the second one was Pontiac Grand Am, a green one." I said, blah, 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 that doesn't actually matter. When I passed the second one, about that same time, he stopped running, and he is at that light pole. So when he stopped, I stopped, and then he starts to turn around. I tell him to get on the ground, get on the ground. Per Darren Wilson, Mike Brown turns around at the light pole next to the driveway up to the north. And by the way, as another bizarre coincidence that plagues this case, that light pole at which Darren Wilson says that Michael Brown turned around is the light pole where the protesters in Ferguson decided to build the memorial to Michael Brown, the place at which the cop said that Michael Brown turned around. Anyways, witness 102 says that Michael Brown took off running, blah, blah, blah. Brown abruptly turned around a nearby driveway. Again, that is the driveway up to the north. But this is where it gets really interesting. Dorian Johnson, the guy who was with Michael Brown during the robbery of the store and during the fight with the cop, blah, blah. Dorian Johnson, in his testimony before the grand jury on September 10th, 2014, also coincided with Darren Wilson, the cop, and witness 102. Quote, "Like I said, he was barely on the sidewalk. He was barely on the sidewalk to the parking lot. He was going towards this building." Again, according to Dorian Johnson, Mike Brown was on the sidewalk near the driveway, or the parking lot as he calls it, to the north. The same exact place that Darren Wilson and witness 102 said that Michael Brown turned around towards the officer. Alright, so let's work out visually what that testimony means. Because we got the car over here, and we got the body over here. Obviously, Mike had to run east on Campfield Road. Nobody is disputing that. Now, per Dorian, Mike was turning left as he ran, and he got to the driveway. Now then, obviously, Dorian cannot be referring to this driveway, because that's almost 100 feet away from where the body ended up. So, and Dorian can't be referring to the driveway south to Caddyfield, because that would be turning right. And Dorian clearly stated that Mike was turning left, which leaves the driveway north to Copper Creek Court. Now, why didn't Mike turn north sooner? Because there's a giant building in the middle of the way. Now then, the driveway is over here, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. Point number 20 is the easternmost drop of blood. Now, if we draw a line, a rough trajectory through the blood and the body, we get a line pointing, coincidentally, to the very same driveway on which Wilson, Dorian Johnson, and witness 102 said that Michael Brown turned around and started to walk or run towards a cop. So here, okay, so we have a convergence of not just the testimony of the three main witnesses, but we also have physical evidence pointing to Mike coming from that direction. Now, the problem is that the distance between here and here is 60 feet. It is not possible to cross that distance in the 6 seconds in which the shooting occurred without running. You cannot walk that distance. And by the way, if you read Dorian Johnson's testimony, he said that Mike took a maximum 1 or 2 steps towards the cop. 1 or 2 steps cannot become 60 feet. Unless Mike Brown is 50 feet tall and his, his stride is 30 feet per step. Now, of course, Dorian points out that Mike was nearly on the driveway, which would be this area over here, which again is consistent with the trajectory of the blood drops and the body. As a counter argument, let's imagine that Mike had gone straight, had gotten off the sidewalk directly north of where his body ended up. Mike would have to run 40 feet to the east, then turn around again in order for his body to end up where it ended. Or, for example, if Mike had turned around on Caddyfield Road, well, first of all, the cop is coming from here. So Mike would have to, A, get shot sideways by the cop, then again run east for almost 40 feet to bleed on point 20, and then run another 30 feet west for his body to end there. So I mean, as simply as possible, the only way to interpret the physical evidence and the testimony is that, okay, A, Mike runs here in this direction towards Copper Creek Court, or what's identified as Copper Creek Court, turns around somewhere in this vicinity, somewhere between the sidewalk and the driveway. Then from there he runs southwest 60 feet. The first shot hits him somewhere between here and blood drop 20. Is obviously because there's no blood in this section, it means that he hadn't been shot yet. So the cop shoots him somewhere between there and there, and then there's a 3-second pause, and he runs the final 22 feet in a matter of seconds, which again requires either a fast walk or a running speed. Anyways, this basic diagram is why there was no indictment. There is no way to reconcile the fact that Michael Brown's body and the place at which Michael Brown turned around, there's a distance of 60 feet. Bodies do not move after they've died. It's not like he got shot in the driveway and then floated 60 feet. Maybe the road was slippery and he slid 60 feet. No, that's not how it works. The only way for Mike Brown to get from point A to point B in 6 seconds is by running, and that is why there was no indictment. And it's why, if there had been a trial, there would have been a not guilty verdict, because you cannot reconcile the hands up, don't shoot version of events with Mike running 60 feet towards a cop.